What's up, everybody? Brennan Edwards here. You may know me as the guy who fell in the river in the first episode of Curse of Akakor. And I'm here to make a video to pretty much clear my name and also give you my reaction to the episode and what it was actually like to be in the jungle and that said river. But before we get into that, I want to tell you guys a little bit about what the Curse of Akakor is. Because if you don't know, first of all, you should know if you're already here because you're here and that's what you're here to see. But if you don't know, super briefly, in my layman's terms, is that in the jungle in Peru and Brazil, back in the day, a guy emerged from the jungle named Tutunkanara, and he pretty much was like, I'm the son of this lost civilization that's underground, and everybody should believe me. I want to connect them to the world. Met a writer named Carl Brugger. He wrote a book about it. They went and tried to figure things out in the jungle. Didn't work out that well. Carl Brugger, the writer, was like, I'm going to go into the jungle myself, and I'm gonna figure this out. And as he was getting ready to leave, he tragically was shot on the streets of Rio. And then after that, we pretty much see that there's a lot of people who are having real tragic occurrences with this guy when they go out looking for the lost city as well. And there's supposedly a lost city. So we got together a team and said, let's go find this lost city and let's also find out, is this like a murder mystery? Is this something that we really should be looking into? And that's why we had FBI guys, investigative journalists, and all of that. This is the part where you should stop this to go watch the episode because I'm not gonna walk you through the whole episode. But what I am gonna do is tell you my thoughts on specific parts. Most of the parts that I'm in, just gonna keep it real, because I got some name defending to do and clearing. And also it's just kind of fun to talk a little bit more about the experience of being in the jungle and living there and doing all those things. So without further ado, we're just gonna get right into it. All right, so here are my takeaways from the episode. First up, we have the drone shot that we have with Paul when he's explaining what's going on and who's part of the team. And there's me, like you see me stand on top of a rock. At first you kind of just see Paul looking up at the camera and he's like talking. You're like, why is he looking up at the camera? Well, it's because it's my camera and you can even hear the drone I'm flying. And I was like, I don't know if this is a good idea because we are literally inside of a jungle under a canopy. It's very difficult to fly a drone under the jungle canopy because dense everything, and flying a drone around a lot of things that are moving with the wind. There was wind. It's not that much fun, especially when you have the team leader right in front of you that if the drone was to hit him, it could be beyond tragic. So for me, it was a little nerve-wracking, but I wasn't in the jungle to say no. I already said yes to being there. So I was like, okay, cool. We had to find a canopy that had a big hole in it so that I could actually rise up out of the jungle as well as enough space to be able to shoot, or at least make me feel comfortable, be able to fly and get that shot. And it's really funny, actually, if you like zoom in on it, like he throws to me, he's like, yeah, so I'm here with my team, you know, like Brennan here. And I'm just like, hey. Like, I just do this weird face because I was nervous. Like flying that drone inside there was like, it was moving in ways it wasn't supposed to because of the wind and because there wasn't a good GPS signal and it was darker. So there was just a lot going on in that moment. And then I didn't realize he was gonna be like Brennan here. And then the camera just like flicks up to me and I'm just like, oh. Yeah, what up? I'm cool. Let me know if that's how it came off for y'all, but that's what I was going for. Like, oh yeah, no big deal. Just flying drones in the jungle. I'm out here. Next takeaway. The first thing you see the team investigating as a whole is this giant stone that's just in the middle of the jungle that has petroglyphs on it. Now, we don't go into big detail about what was going on with that, but for me, that was actually a really interesting shoot for a couple reasons. Number one is that there was these giant boulders in the middle of the jungle. And for me, there was no reason for that. Obviously, I wasn't like Dr. Martin Pepper and saying like, hey, you know, I know what's going on here. This is why these are here. Like for me, I'm like dense jungle, dense jungle, dense jungle, river, and then giant, huge boulders that we hadn't seen anywhere else. And then on top of that, these boulders had these petroglyphs in them, and that was crazy. And the one that you could see there's a specific drone shot that you can actually see the entire boulder that we're standing next to and investigating with the tribe leader, is that from above, it looks like a face. Like it looks like there's like a nose ridge, and there's eyes, and then there's even a mouth that's like full of water. And the tribe actually had like stories about that rock. It's like a warrior like stuck his spear into it and made water spout from it, and it was never allowed to open his mouth again or something like that. And you can see it. Like for me, it's just crazy because while you're on the ground, you can't see the face. But when I put my drone up and was looking at it, you can see like, oh wow, this does resemble a human face. How would you know that like without seeing it from above? But they knew. So I found that really interesting. So up next, they introduced the talent and our talent introductions. And yeah, I'm doing this chronologically, so you can kind of sort of follow along on the episode. But they introduced all of us and said, this is who we are, this is what we do. And it was pretty much like, you know, my favorite part was Bobby when he was just like. But in all seriousness, I think they did an excellent job of portraying us, but they didn't have enough time to really show the breadth of the experience of this team. Like a lot of my friends and family ask me like, you know, is this a real show? Is this fake? Are these people really who they say they are, kind of thing? And my answer is always an astoundingly, yes, it was real. Everything was real. And secondly, is that these people, I think, were humble in the way that they were presented. Bobby Chacon, like I was saying, the FBI agent, dude was in the FBI for 25 years. He founded the underwater forensics department for the FBI. He broke up mafias. He traveled all over the world. Super accomplished. Like, this guy is just beyond intelligent when it comes to it, and super cool to boot. Like, you hang out with him. I loved him. Paul, the team leader, investigative journalist. And you're like, okay, what's an investigative journalist have to really do with this? Like, this guy is the person who embeds himself into areas that are not necessarily comfortable. Like, he did an entire show, which you can find online, where he literally went to some of the worst prisons in the world and stayed in them just to see what that was like to be able to do that show. And he's done a lot of undercover work, and like, he really goes after crime. Like, he's like, if there's crime here, then I'm interested and I want to break it up. He's kind of sort of like a pseudo superhero. I wouldn't say that to him to his face, but he kind of is. Then we have Megan Hine. Megan is, if you know who Bear Grylls is, the guy who goes out and does all the crazy survivalist stuff all over the world, she is the main safety person for him. When he's in trouble or when something's wrong, he looks to her. Like, she's the one, and she's also like doing the stunt coordination. So whenever he's gonna go plunge into a river or say, here's how you survive this thing, she's the one who shows him how to do it. She is the truth of truth of truth. And that even leads us to the next person who is just as true, Karina Oliani. Karina is from Brazil, so as she said, this was very personal for her because we were in her backyard. But Karina has climbed like every major mountain. Like, as of us talking about this, I know she's climbed Everest twice. She just came down from climbing K2. Like, she's climbed everything. She literally has her doctorate in jungle medicine, speaks like 3 languages. Like, she's done photo shoots underwater next to sunken ships, baiting the water for sharks in dresses. Like, she just does the most extreme stuff all the time, like is regular. And then we have Dr. Martin Pepper. Yeah, that's his name. You can figure out how to say it without Martin, and it's hilarious. This guy is a geologist and an archaeologist who's traveled all around the world. Honestly, he looks and kind of is the real life Indiana Jones. He's one of the funniest guys I've ever met. And in every situation that we were in that I wanted to know something, anything about how the land came to be, how erosion worked, why this rock was here, what kind of rocks are there, is there a possibility of being gold here? He was the guy. He just knew it off the top of his head. He's, oh yeah, I did a research thesis on this. He was like a walking encyclopedia, and it was just honestly an honor to even be around him. Yo, and then there's me, the tech specialist, and I make videos about drones on the internet. So next up, there's a lot of jungle shots of like animals like snakes and tarantulas and all that. And you might think that's like jungle B-roll, but it is. It actually is jungle B-roll that our team shot. Every single animal and thing that you saw, I literally witnessed and was terrified of in the jungle while we were there. So that's absolutely real. At about 7 minutes and 30 seconds into the show, there is a grouping of us standing in a semicircle, and we're talking about what we're gonna do. And a lot of people, like, they laughed because I had like a watch party to watch the first episode, and they laughed like, what was Brennan thinking in that moment? And I was thinking that, why me? In the sense of, they were talking about what we're gonna do to be able to go look at some possible more petroglyphs up this river in the Amazon, and they were deciding like, well, this is a very dangerous trek, so who should we send? And I was like, oh, please don't make this send me. We don't need drones. Yeah, so we need the geologist, we need a survival expert. It's like, okay, Megan, Martin, cool. And we need drones. I'm just like, awesome, cool, that's me. All right, fine. This for me was the biggest piece of the show that I feel like a lot of people are like, is it real? Were you doing stuff? Going up that river. It was physically the most demanding thing ever. Let me paint you a picture. We're in these little pecky boats. We're going upstream. Everything's cool. We're chilling. As we get up, the river gets lower and lower. And to find out, the river is at historical lows. You can see way above our heads that the banks are like 10, 20 feet above our heads. The river's low. That means there's a lot of rocks that we're starting to hit. And these guys with these sticks are pushing us through. And I'm like, man, these guys are strong, but it's cool. We're still out here. And then the river just keeps getting lower. And when it gets too low to where we get stuck on the rocks, what do? Well, you have to make the boat more buoyant. How do you do that? You remove weight. We all had to jump out of the boat. And if the boat still doesn't move, which it never did, you have to push it. And we're going upriver. So we're pushing an entire boat upriver against the current. And sometimes the rocks will be high enough to where you could stand there and the water would be up to our chest, but the boat still wasn't moving because it was still hitting rocks in front of us. So you'd be pushing the boat above your head or pushing it right next to you to try to get it up. And for hours, it was about every 2 to 3 minutes, we'd have to get out and push for 10 to 15, then get back in and get back out, get back in. And it was exhausting. Like, one of the guys almost passed out. And so when Karina said that it's time, that we needed to like, hey, it's time to get off the boats, this is too hard, she wasn't lying even a little bit. And so we did actually have to get off the boats and continue walking, which for me, it was a lose-lose situation because the continue walking meant that now I have all this tech gear that was in the boat that was weighing it down in the first place that now we have to carry because I don't know what kind of tech I'm gonna need there. And they made me bring pretty much everything. So here I am now walking with these heavy cases, this heavy backpack full of batteries for miles on this riverbed to get to a rock that was not clearly defined to me of why we're going to this rock because I'm just the tech guy. And while we're walking, I didn't realize we were always filming, first of all. Second of all, I am carrying a box at 11:42. If you go to 11:42, you see me carrying the big box. I'm carrying the box. That's me. I'm the one carrying the box, the big one. And later on, a few seconds later, Martin makes fun of me because I'm like, hey, you know what's really fun? Carrying this heavy tech backpack. Let's just pause on that, guys. Heavy tech backpack. This heavy tech backpack was between 50 and 70 pounds because I'm carrying all the batteries and I'm carrying all the things that absolutely cannot get wet. Super heavy. So I'm like, hey man, you know what's fun? Carrying this heavy tech backpack. I admit, I didn't need to complain. It wasn't gonna help the situation. I was expressing my heart. I thought they wanted to know. So I said that, not knowing we were filming, side note, and Martin's response was, well, Karina has your bag on her head. I'm like, I was carrying the case for most of this time. And as a matter of fact, I have the heaviest backpack. You wanna switch it? That's what I said next. That's what I said next. It wasn't in the episode. But just wanna say, that's what I said next, Martin. And matter of fact, Martin, you were really worried about it. Out of the things we could have been concerned about in the jungle, the thing you were most concerned about in the jungle was me. I can't even believe you love me so much that your number one concern was about my well-being. So thank you, Martin. Dr. Pepper, you are the best. All right, just a quick shout out to Bobby and Paul. You guys were in the lodge, doing the paperwork, looking through the research, while we were dragging our butts in that boat, all those boats, up that river. I'm sure it was very difficult for you guys, and I really appreciate how hard you had to work in this particular episode to make sure that we all understood what was going on. Shout out to you guys. And last but not least, friends, family, new acquaintances, I fell. I admit it. You saw it. I fell. But I want to tell you the story of this fall because it looks like I just fell because I wasn't able to handle what was going on. And that may or may not have been the case. But what really happened at that moment is that river was really slippery. I had on the 50 to 70 pound backpack and we're going through this river and I'm like, wow, this is really, really slippery in these huge boots that I've never worn before. I slip, I stumble. Now, typically when somebody slips and stumbles, they use their hands to stop themselves and they pick themselves right back up. And you'll notice, you take your time and you look at it. I didn't do that because when I fell, there was a jagged rock right upon my left shin that my entire body weight fell upon. And it was one of the most excruciating pains I've experienced. It was real. It was so real. But I knew that our super able cameraman, Jovan Sales, yes, your name is on here. You were there for me, my brother. You were there to make sure that it was captured when I fell into the river. And I realized you were behind me because I felt like I heard you snickering. So when I fell, I had a bunch of thoughts. Number one, is my leg broken? Number two, how do I check to see if my leg is broken without looking like I have been devastatingly injured while still on camera? Number three, don't make a scared, sad sound. So I think I did a great job of not doing any of those things. You never would have known the pain that I was going through in that moment. Even you can watch it as many times as you want. Straight face. I just rolled over to my back. As you see, why would you roll over? Why would you roll over, Brennan? Because I needed to figure out if my leg was broken. So I rolled over, I tentatively put my leg on the ground, realized things were okay. In the meantime, everybody's rushing over. I had a few seconds before they were like, are you okay? Are you dead? I'm fine. I'm good. No. I'll get up on my own power, which I did, and I will continue going. But thank you. Thank you so much. All is good. Let's keep it moving until the camera cuts. I'm gonna sit down and look at my leg by myself. I give myself props. Yeah, I fell. Yeah, it hurt, but it didn't look like it. It just looked like a stumble. So you guys make fun of me. You think it's hilarious that I fell in the jungle? Other people fell. Just might not have been on camera. A lot of other people fell. I just so happen to be the lucky winner of that fall. So it's not about how you guys fall. It's about how you take it and how you respond, and of course, how you get back up. And last but not least about this particular episode, going up that river, like I said, one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, and also one of the most painful, and just a bad day. I get, dragged up this river, and then to end it off, I broke my cell phone when I fell in the river. Like it fell into the water and it broke it. But was happy to be there. All right, so there it is, guys. My thoughts. I'd love to know your thoughts on my thoughts on the episode. Let me know what you think. Get in the comment section. I will argue with you. Like, again, mad shout out to the crew. Mad shout out to the cast. You guys did a great job. And I promise you, episode 2 and beyond only gets better. We'll see you there.